A bunch of Romans cut their own thumbs off to avoid going to war. The internet says it's true. Welcome to The Internet Says It's True, where every week we learn something that sounds made up but's really true. This is part of the WCBE podcast experience. My name's Michael Kent. This is episode 199. We got a brand new story this week for you, so thanks for tuning in. Like I told you last week, I'm currently on vacation, so I'm just writing a quick episode and getting it out last minute. I didn't want to skip the week without a brand new story, and this one has been on the list a while. We're going to skip the quiz this week, though, and we're going to make this the shortest Tizzit episode in our library, but it's still super interesting. I'm on vacation at the beach, and it's been a wild one. Started out on day one with some idiot running into our car. Allison and I are fine, but the car is officially totaled. So if you want to join Patreon, the time has never been better because I'm going to have a new monthly car payment now, so every little bit helps. If you love the show and you want to show your support, please do that by joining Patreon and becoming a Tizziter. You can do that at patreon.com/Michael Kent. When you do, I will personally mail you out some stickers and other goodies. Go check that out at patreon.com/Michael Kent. Help me with my new car.
I am once again asking for your financial support.
Also, I haven't talked about this in a while. We have t-shirts. If you go to the website, that's at theinternetsaysitstrue.com, and click on merch, you can get your own t-shirt. They're soft, they're made well. I own several, wearing one today. My personal preference is that the logo looks great on the royal blue shirt, but it's also available in midnight navy and indigo. Go get your t-shirt and help rep the show in your neighborhood. And if you get a minute, don't forget to rate and review the show. You can do that over at the Podcasts app, the Apple Podcasts app. That's the purple icon. You go there, you leave 5 stars, that's great. But one of the things that really helps a ton is if you just leave a few words as a review along with your rating. The words don't even have to make sense. Just go on there and, I don't know, type some of your favorite song lyrics, and then Apple gives that more weight than if you just gave it a star rating. So that helps a lot, and I thank you kindly.
I was thinking of giving this place 5 stars.
So today's episode takes place in ancient Rome. Let's get on with it.
Get on with it.
Yes, get on with it!
Remember in the movie Gladiator, when the Emperor Commodus, played by Joaquin Phoenix, determines the fate of someone who's been defeated in gladiator combat by either giving a thumbs up or a thumbs down. If he gives the thumbs up, the winner was to show mercy to the loser, but the thumbs down meant death. Well, this was a real thing, kind of. The idea of the crowd and ultimately the emperor deciding the ultimate fate of a conquered gladiator was a real thing known as pollice verso, or with a turned thumb. But historians can't seem to agree on what the actual hand signals were. The most common thought among these scholars is that a thumbs up actually meant death for the defeated, but the sign for mercy was probably a closed fist with the thumb wrapping around. Others think that extending 2 fingers from a closed fist was the sign for mercy. There are pieces of art from the time that depict this practice, and the entire reason I bring this up is because we're talking today about the importance of thumbs. The reason the human's opposable thumb is so important is because of its length. It's the longest thumb of any primate, and because of this, we're able to grasp and manipulate items of many different shapes. According to German paleoanthropologist Katerina Harvati, increased manual dexterity in the form of efficient thumb opposition was among the early defining characteristics of our lineage, providing a formidable adaptive advantage to our ancestors. And in early war, the use of thumb was essential in wielding the most popular weapon of the time, the sword. If you didn't have a thumb, you couldn't hold a sword. And this is why we see the removal of the thumbs as a hobbling punishment for enslaved Romans, conquered enemies, and prisoners. It was so they couldn't rise up against their masters or captors. It's a practice that's even mentioned in the Bible. In Judges 1:7, it refers to the account of Adoni-Bezek, whose thumbs and big toes were removed. Now in this case, it was used as payback for him supposedly having carried out this same punishment to 70 kings. He had done this so they could no longer hold swords or run. So this dates the practice to at least the late 7th or early 6th century BC. So why then, in the late stages of the Roman Empire, do we see records of Roman men cutting off their own thumbs? We'll talk about that after some ads. If you love listening to this podcast every week and you want to show your support, that would mean a great deal to me. You can do that by becoming a Patreon member. We've got members at all levels, whether you want to pledge $1 a month or $10 a month. Just think about the value that you receive from this show. And if you like the histories and the stories that you learn about or the jokes that you hear, and if you think that they're worth it, consider signing up. For that, you get every episode ad-free and a week early, access to bonuses like the unedited videos of the guest appearances, and 20% off all merchandise. You can sign up today at patreon.com/Michael Kent. That's patreon.com/Michael Kent. There was a time that humans used 100% organic products as healing balms and moisturizers for their skin. Well, I've partnered with an awesome company that wants to get back to those times. Fatco sells organic and responsibly made tallow-based skincare products. For centuries, humans used tallow in skin moisturizers and healing balms, but unfortunately, the topical application of these fats seemed to stop around the same time that animal fats stopped being considered part of a healthy diet. A lot of modern skincare products do more harm than good by stripping your skin of its natural oils. Let's change that. You can try them out now at fatco.com and get 15% off your order by using my promo code INTERNET. Go to theinternetsaysitstrue.com/deals for the link.
We're living through the most dynamic time in human history, and what we do as leaders matter. We are the ones that create the leverage to shift directions of our companies, our nonprofits, and our communities. As a leader or an emerging leader, please join me for a dynamic conversation with top thought leaders, academics, and executives to learn more about how to elevate your leadership. I'm Maureen Metcalf. Join us at the WCBE podcast experience at wcbe.org.
I'm John DeSando, host of Back Talk. This podcast is an extension of the long-running, award-winning movie review show, It's Movie Time. Back Talk features additional content and banter with guests about new movies. If you want more insight and information about what's playing now in theaters and online, find Back Talk at the WCBE podcast experience on wcbe.org. You'll be happy you did.
In the late stages of the Roman Empire, starting somewhere in the 500 BC time period, barbarian tribes began challenging the empire and did so for the next several hundred years. Huns, Franks, Vandals, Saxons, and Goths all entered Rome and destroyed many cities. The Roman Empire was shrinking and needed all able-bodied Roman men to be conscripted into its army. And it wasn't like the conscription we know of here in America, where if someone avoided the draft and refused without a good excuse, they'd be punished with the legal system and jail. If you refused to fight in the Roman army, you'd be executed, with some of these men being burned at the stake in public. They needed men desperately as these attacking tribes became a serious threat. For example, in the year 378 AD, the Battle of Adrianople killed something like 20,000 Romans, a total of 1/3 of their standing army. But the problem of conscription avoidance had already become a major issue in Rome by then. It's been a problem in every army and every war. Soldiers in later wars who wanted to avoid fighting during wartime would sometimes shoot themselves in the second toe or other extremities in order to be sent home. Some would do it prior to being drafted. In ancient Rome, these men wanted to be home with their families. Some of them simply didn't want to go through the grueling training and hard work. Claiming you had bone spurs or asthma was not an option. So that's why Romans began cutting off their own thumbs to avoid conscription. There are accounts of this happening in the aristocracy, where rich fathers would actually cut off their sons' thumbs in order to avoid losing them in battle. The sons, not the thumbs. There's a historical record of Emperor Augustus learning about this practice and becoming furious. He was emperor from 27 BC to 14 AD, so that gives you an idea of when this was happening. Augustus was so angry when he learned that this rich father had removed the thumbs of his two sons that he ordered the sons to be sold into slavery and took all of the father's wealth and possessions. There's a record of Ammianus Marcellinus, a Roman soldier and historian from 355 AD, whose name I'm sure I pronounced incorrectly, where he was disparaging people from Italy and comparing them with the Gauls, saying, "No one here ever cuts his thumb to escape military service, as happens in Italy, where they have a special name for such malingerers." And the word he was referring to is mercy, M-U-R-C-I, which meant coward. And it was believed at the time that this was becoming a big problem for the Roman Empire, particularly within Italy. In 364 AD, Emperors Valentinian and Valens were brothers who were co-emperors of Rome. They started enforcing a law that had previously been established by Constantine, but one they decreed would be taken seriously. If a person cuts off his fingers to avoid military service, he will be sentenced to death, and if his master fails to prevent him from this, he will be severely punished. If the person committing the offense was poor, they'd enslave the person, making them work in the mines. If the person was rich, they'd confiscate their wealth. Emperor Theodosius had the same rule. This helped reduce the number of Roman draft dodgers, but by this point it was probably too late. The fall of Rome, which happened in the following century, probably wasn't just because of men cutting off their own thumbs, but this strange self-mutilation practice probably didn't help, and can also be seen as a sign of the changing times and the attitudes of Rome's fighting-age men. So next time you use your thumb to hold your iPhone, just think about this story and how glad you are to have your thumbs without needing to use them to hold a sword and go into battle. We're living in good times, friends. The internet says it's true. That is all for this week. Thank you so much for listening. Here's the voice of a kid who is all thumbs.
Thank you for listening to The Internet Says It's True. To listen to episodes ad-free and a week early, support us on Patreon. You can do that at patreon.com/Michael Kent. If you learned something just now that you didn't already know, go to the Apple Podcast app and leave us a review with 5 stars and a few words. That helps us a ton, because that's how the algorithm works. I don't know what an algorithm is, but just do it. See you next week for a brand new episode of The Internet Says It's True!
The Internet Says It's True would like to thank the Patreon subscribers whose monthly contributions help to make this show possible. Sean Brown, Joshua Endress, Dallas Ray, Bryce Swanson, Eugene Anderson, Jim and Joanne Martin, Mitch and Andrew Joseph Kemplin, and the show's official Emperor, Kick Track. The show is written and produced by me, Michael Kent. The theme song is by Finite Music Forge, and all audio clips in this episode are used for education and commentary and used under Fair Use Title 17 U.S.C. Section 107. You can listen to past episodes by searching for The Internet Says It's True wherever you get your podcasts, and you can see bonus content at patreon.com/Michael Kent.